I stayed silent while my own family destroyed my life, because I needed them to think I was weak. The detective's words were still ringing in my ears as I stood in that Vermont cabin, surrounded by people who actually cared about me. But to understand how I got here, how my own parents tried to have me declared mentally incompetent to steal my inheritance, I need to take you back 3 weeks. Back to the phone call that changed everything. My name is Natalie Brooks. 28 years old. Hartford, Connecticut. And for as long as I can remember, Christmas in my family wasn't about joy. It was about proving who mattered and who didn't. My older brother Jake? He mattered. His wife? She mattered. Their 2 kids? They definitely mattered. Me? I was the placeholder. The backup daughter. The one who got invited out of obligation and ignored out of habit. Every December, the same routine played out like clockwork. My parents, Richard and Susan, would host Christmas at their house. Jake's family would arrive first, always first. They'd get the master guest room. The kids would tear through the house leaving toys everywhere, and my mother would smile like it was precious. When I was younger, I'd tried joining in. I'd bought thoughtful gifts, helped cook, attempted to connect with my niece and nephew. Nobody noticed. The gifts got a polite thanks before being set aside. My help in the kitchen earned tight smiles and suggestions that I was doing it wrong. Conversations happened around me, not with me. Family photos were taken, candid ones, the kind that looked authentic for social media, and somehow I was always just out of frame. Or if I was in them, I'd be cropped out before they got posted. Our perfect Christmas with our perfect family, the captions would read, showing Jake and his wife laughing by the tree. I'd sit on the worn armchair in the corner, the one with the broken spring that nobody else wanted, and scroll through those posts on my phone. Smiling at relatives who barely remembered my name. Nodding through passive-aggressive questions about why I wasn't married yet, why I didn't have kids yet, why I still rented an apartment instead of owning a home. The answer was always the same, unspoken truth, because nobody in this room ever helped me the way they helped Jake. When Jake needed a down payment on his house, our parents gave him $40,000. Called it an early inheritance. When I asked for help with my student loans, you need to learn financial responsibility, Natalie. When Jake's wife wanted to stay home with the kids, they paid for a nanny 3 days a week. When I got pneumonia and missed a week of work, we can't enable your poor health choices. 3 years of this. 3 years of watching the people who were supposed to love me choose someone else. Every single time. But this year was different. The call came on a Tuesday. December 17th. I was at my desk at the insurance company where I worked, processing claims and trying not to think about the upcoming holiday. My mother's voice came through bright and cheerful. Natalie, sweetheart. Just wanted to give you a heads up about Christmas. I already knew what was coming. I could hear it in her tone, that careful, overly sweet way she spoke when she was about to hurt me and pretend it was kindness. We're keeping everything at the house this year, just like always. It's really just for Jake and his family, you understand. The kids have their traditions, and we don't want to disrupt their routine. Silence stretched between us. She was waiting for me to say it was fine. To agree. To disappear quietly like I always did. Something inside me cracked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet, cold snap, like ice breaking on a lake you didn't know was frozen. I understand completely, I said, my voice steady. And I did understand. Finally. I understood that nothing I did would ever be enough. I understood that their love had conditions I could never meet. I understood that I was fighting for scraps from people who saw me as a burden. What my mother didn't understand was that I'd just made a decision. I was done begging for a place at their table. I was going to build my own. The idea hit me that night while I sat alone in my apartment, eating leftover takeout and staring at my phone. I was going to host my own Christmas. Not as revenge, not yet. As proof. Proof that I could create something real without them. Proof that I mattered, even if they never saw it. I opened my laptop and started searching. Vermont cabins. Something far enough that they couldn't just show up uninvited, but close enough that friends could make the drive. I scrolled through listings for hours, looking for something that felt right. Then I found it. A small cabin outside Burlington. Wood-burning fireplace. Windows overlooking snow-covered pines. 2 bedrooms, a loft, and a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a holiday movie. The price made my stomach drop. 3 nights would cost nearly half my monthly rent, but I clicked reserve anyway. My hands shook as I entered my credit card information. This was reckless. Stupid, even. I had student loans. Car payments. Rent due in 2 weeks. But I needed this. Needed to prove to myself that I could have something beautiful, something mine, without waiting for permission from people who would never give it. The confirmation email arrived. December 23rd through 26th. Booked. Now I just needed people to share it with. I started making a list. Coworkers I actually liked. Friends from college I'd lost touch with. Even some distant cousins, people I barely knew but who'd always been kind in the few family gatherings where we crossed paths. My finger hovered over one name, Marcus Chen. We worked in different departments at the insurance company. I'd see him in the break room sometimes, and we'd talk about nothing important, weather, traffic, the terrible coffee. But there was something about him that felt safe. Like he understood what it meant to be on the outside. I didn't know why I thought that. Just a feeling. I sent out invitations carefully, keeping everything vague on social media. Planning something special for the holidays, with no location tags, no details. Just enough to let people know I was doing something without broadcasting where. The responses came in slowly. Yes from my friend Kelsey. Yes from 2 coworkers. Yes from Marcus, with a message that made me smile, count me in. My family situation is complicated too. 3 days after I sent the invitations, I posted a story, just a photo of a snow-covered pine tree with the caption, "Making New Traditions." It got 40 views. Normal. But one of those views bothered me. An account with no profile picture. No posts. No followers. No name, just a string of random numbers and letters. Someone had created a blank account just to watch my story. I told myself I was being paranoid. It was probably spam. A bot. Nothing. But late that night, lying in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling. Someone was watching. And I had a sinking suspicion I knew who. My mother had always been controlling. But would she really go this far? I didn't have an answer yet. What I didn't know then was that the surveillance had started months earlier. And it wasn't just my mother watching. The next 2 weeks blurred together in a rush of planning, shopping, and sleepless nights. I couldn't tell anyone what I was really doing. Not the full truth, anyway. Because the full truth sounded crazy, I was spending money I didn't have to prove something to people who wouldn't care. But it wasn't about them anymore. At least, that's what I told myself. I hit Target after work, loading my cart with decorations. Nothing expensive, just string lights, pine-scented candles, cheap ornaments that looked better than their price tag suggested. I went to 3 different grocery stores in Connecticut, comparing prices on baking supplies like my life depended on it. Flour. Sugar. Chocolate chips. Cinnamon sticks. Everything I needed to make the cabin smell like the Christmases I'd always wanted but never had. My apartment became a staging ground. Boxes stacked in corners. Lists taped to my fridge. A budget spreadsheet that made me nauseous every time I looked at it. Kelsey came over one evening to help me wrap gifts. She sprawled on my couch, scissors in hand, eyeing me with concern. "Your parents know about this, right?" I didn't look up from the ribbon I was curling. "Of course." The lie came easier than it should have. "And they're okay with it?" "They're fine. They have their thing, I have mine." Kelsey nodded, but I could feel her watching me. She'd met my family once at a company picnic. Watched my mother hug Jake's kids and barely acknowledge me. She hadn't said anything then, but I knew she'd noticed. "This is going to be great," she said finally. "You deserve something just for you." Those words stuck with me. Deserve. Like I needed permission to claim something good. Marcus texted me 3 days before Christmas. "Need any help setting up? I can drive up early." I stared at the message. We'd talked more over the past week, casual conversations that felt less casual every time. He'd mentioned his family situation once, briefly. Parents who'd remarried and started new families, leaving him somewhere in the middle. Forgotten but not gone. I understood that feeling. "That would be amazing," I typed back. "Bringing my car up on the 23rd. Could use a second pair of hands." His response came immediately. "See you then." The night before I left, my phone rang. My mother. I almost didn't answer. "Natalie, sweetheart, just checking in. You're not alone tomorrow, are you?" "That would be so sad." Her voice dripped with false concern. The kind that sounded caring to anyone listening but felt like a knife to me. She wanted me to be alone. Wanted me to feel that absence, that exclusion. Wanted me to know my place. "I'm fine, Mom. Actually have plans." "Oh? With who?" The question was sharp. Suspicious. "Just friends. Nothing big." "Well. That's nice, I suppose. Jake's family will miss you." "No, they wouldn't. We both knew it. Have a wonderful Christmas, Mom." I hung up before she could respond. That night, I packed everything into my car. Decorations. Food. Gifts. My laptop, because part of me couldn't fully disconnect from work even for this. As I loaded the last box, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hope you're not alone tomorrow." That would be sad. My mother's exact words. From a number I didn't recognize. My hands went cold. I checked the blank account that had viewed my story. Still there. Still watching. This wasn't paranoia anymore. Someone was tracking me. And they wanted me to know it. I got in my car and started driving north, checking my rearview mirror more than I should have. What I didn't realize then was that while I was watching for followers, someone had already been inside my life for months. Waiting. The cabin looked like something from a postcard when I pulled up that morning. Snow blanketed the roof and clung to the pine branches surrounding the property. Smoke would soon curl from the chimney. Windows would glow with warmth. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Marcus arrived an hour after me, his truck crunching over the snow-packed driveway. He climbed out wearing a thick coat and a grin that made the cold feel less biting. "This place is incredible," he said, grabbing boxes from my car without being asked. We spent the morning transforming the cabin. String lights along the windows. Candles on every surface. A small tree in the corner that we decorated with the cheap ornaments I'd bought, laughing at how uneven it looked and not caring at all. By the time Kelsey arrived with her boyfriend, the cabin felt alive. Then came the cousins, Trevor and his wife, people I'd only met twice at funerals but who'd always been kind. Then 2 co-workers from accounting. Then Marcus's friend with her 2 kids, who shrieked with delight when they saw the snow. By evening, the cabin was full. Not crowded. Full. The good kind, where laughter echoed off wooden walls and conversations overlapped in that comfortable way that meant everyone felt welcome. I made hot cocoa from scratch, standing at the stove and stirring while Trevor told stories about his work in estate law. The kids built a snowman outside, visible through the frosted windows. Kelsey sang off-key Christmas songs while her boyfriend pretended to be embarrassed. This was what I'd wanted. What I'd been missing. For 3 hours, I forgot about my parents. Forgot about Jake. Forgot about the weird text and the blank account watching my posts. I just existed here, in this moment, surrounded by people who chose to show up. Marcus found me by the fireplace later, staring into the flames. "You keep checking your phone," he said quietly. I did. Every 10 minutes, compulsively. Waiting for something without knowing what. Just making sure everything's okay. Everything looks pretty perfect from here. He wasn't wrong. But perfect felt fragile. Like it could shatter if I stopped paying attention. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus leaned against the mantel, his expression serious. "Why didn't you tell anyone where this cabin was? Not even in the group chat." I'd been careful about that. Gave people the address only when they confirmed they were coming. No public posts. No location tags. "My family's complicated," I said. "Complicated how?" Before I could answer, someone knocked on the door. 3 sharp raps that cut through the laughter and conversation like a blade. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at me. "Were you expecting someone else?" Kelsey asked. I shook my head, my heart suddenly racing. Nobody knew this exact location except the people in this room. I'd been so careful. The knock came again. Louder this time. Marcus moved toward the door, but I stopped him. "I'll get it." My hands trembled as I reached for the handle. Part of me expected to see my parents standing there, furious that I'd dared to create something without them. I opened the door. A tall man in a dark coat stood on the porch, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. His badge caught the light from inside. "Natalie Brooks?" My throat tightened. "Yes?" "I'm Detective Harris, Vermont State Police." He glanced past me at the gathering inside, then back to my face. "Someone filed a report about you. Said there's been suspicious activity at this location." The world tilted. "What kind of report?" He pulled out a small envelope from his coat. "The kind that includes photos of your cabin taken 2 nights ago. And allegations that you're running some sort of scam." Behind me, I heard Kelsey whisper, "What's going on?" I couldn't answer. Couldn't breathe. Detective Harris handed me the envelope. Inside were 3 photographs, clear, high-resolution images of this cabin. The front door. The driveway. The windows. All taken in darkness. All taken before I'd even arrived. "Who filed this report?" My voice barely worked. "Your parents," he said. "Richard and Susan Carter. They claim you're defrauding your extended family by hosting a fake Christmas gathering to extract money." The words hit like physical blows. They'd been here. Watching. Planning this. "That's insane," I managed. "These people are my friends. I understand. And honestly..." Detective Harris lowered his voice. "I think someone's setting you up. But I need to ask, have you had any issues with identity theft in the past year?" My blood went cold. "What?" "Your name appeared on a report filed last October. Small fraudulent charges. Credit card applications you didn't make. It was flagged but never fully investigated. I'd never heard about this. Never received any notification. I didn't, I never. I believe you. He glanced back at his car. But your parents used that report to build their case. They're claiming you're mentally unstable and financially irresponsible. The cabin felt too small suddenly. Too hot. Everyone was staring. Marcus stepped beside me. What do you need from her, detective? Just verification of who's here and why. But Miss Brooks? His eyes met mine, and something in them felt almost sympathetic. Off the record? I think someone's been building a case against you for months. And I think I know. His phone rang, cutting him off. He answered, his expression shifting from calm to tense in seconds. I have to take this. I'll be back tomorrow morning to follow up. He turned and walked toward his car, phone pressed to his ear, leaving me standing in the doorway with an envelope full of evidence that my own parents had been stalking me. Trevor appeared at my shoulder, his lawyer instincts kicking in. Natalie, don't say anything else without representation. And we need to talk about those identity theft charges. I nodded numbly, closing the door against the cold. The perfect Christmas I'd built was crumbling. And I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. I didn't sleep that night. While everyone else settled into bedrooms and the loft, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, Trevor across from me, and Marcus making coffee neither of us would drink. Walk me through the identity theft, Trevor said, his voice gentle but firm. Everything you remember. I don't remember anything because I didn't know about it. That was the problem. How do you defend yourself against something you never knew existed? Trevor pulled up credit monitoring sites, typing in my information with my permission. What we found made my stomach turn. Last October, 13 months ago, someone had applied for 3 credit cards in my name. All denied due to insufficient credit history, but the applications existed. Hard inquiries that dinged my score. November brought 2 more. One approved for a low limit. Did you get the card in the mail? Trevor asked. No. I never saw any card. Because it probably went to a different address. He clicked through screens. Look. The billing address is in New Jersey. My parents lived in New Jersey. Had moved there 2 years ago when my father retired. Marcus leaned over my shoulder. Could be a coincidence. Could be, Trevor said, but his tone suggested he didn't believe it. What about these charges? Small purchases. Gas stations. Grocery stores. Nothing extravagant. $50 here, $30 there. The kind of spending that looked legitimate. The kind that wouldn't trigger fraud alerts. Total damage? Maybe $800 over 3 months before the account went dormant. Someone was being careful, Trevor muttered. Building a pattern without raising flags. Why? My voice cracked. Why would anyone do this? Trevor looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. To establish a history. To make you look unstable or dishonest if they ever needed to. But my parents, they wouldn't. Except they would. I knew they would. I just didn't want to accept it. Marcus set a mug of coffee in front of me. What would they gain from this? Trevor hesitated. Natalie, do you have any assets? Inheritance? Anything they might want access to? I started to say no. Then stopped. My grandmother, I said slowly. She died 14 months ago. Left everything split between me and Jake. How much? I don't know exactly. The estate was still being settled. Her lawyer said it could take a year or more because of property sales and investments. Trevor's expression darkened. And if you were declared mentally incompetent or legally unfit to manage finances? The pieces clicked together with horrible clarity. Someone else would control it. Usually next of kin. In your case, probably your parents or your brother. My hands curled into fists on the table. They're trying to steal my inheritance. Maybe. But we need proof. Trevor started typing again. I'm going to make some calls tomorrow. I know people who can dig into this properly. Kelsey appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket. You should try to get some sleep. Can't. She sat down beside me, her hand finding mine. Your parents really did this? Filed a false police report? The detective seemed to think so. Then we fight back. All of us. She squeezed my hand. You're not alone in this. But I felt alone. Felt like I was drowning in something I couldn't see or understand. Marcus cleared his throat. There's something I need to tell you. We all turned to look at him. I didn't just randomly become friends with you at work, Natalie. I mean, I do consider us friends now, but... He ran a hand through his hair. I'm a financial fraud investigator. It's my actual job, separate from the insurance company. I consult on cases. My chest tightened. What? 3 months ago, I was flagged about suspicious account activity connected to your family name. I started looking into it. When I realized you worked at the same company, I thought I'd observe, see if you were involved or if something else was going on. You've been investigating me? The betrayal stung worse than it should have. At first. But after our first real conversation, I knew you had no idea what was happening. So I shifted focus to who was actually behind it. And? His jaw tightened. Your brother's name keeps appearing in places it shouldn't. Financial transactions that don't add up. Transfers between accounts. I think he's been embezzling from your family's business. The room spun. Jake? I can't prove it yet. But if he's in financial trouble and knows about your grandmother's inheritance, he'd need me out of the way, I finished. Trevor leaned forward. This goes deeper than identity theft. If your brother's embezzling and your parents don't know, he could be manipulating all of you. A text lit up my phone on the table. Unknown number. Getting cozy with strangers won't save you. You're still the problem you've always been. My hands shook as I showed it to the others. Marcus grabbed my phone, his investigator instincts taking over. Don't respond. We're documenting everything. But the message wasn't finished. Another one came through. That detective? He doesn't know half of what's really happening. Neither do you. Then a photo. My parents' house in New Jersey. Taken from inside, showing their living room. And sitting on their coffee table was a folder with my name on it. Someone's in their house, I whispered. Right now. Marcus was already dialing. I'm calling Detective Harris. This is beyond family drama, someone's committing active crimes. But as he made the call, I couldn't stop staring at that photo. Because in the background, barely visible in the reflection of a mirror, I could see a figure. Someone was watching my parents the same way they'd been watching me. And I had no idea who was playing whom anymore. The only thing I knew for certain was that my perfect Christmas had become something much darker. And tomorrow, when Detective Harris returned, I'd have to decide how much truth I was ready to face. Detective Harris didn't come back the next morning. Instead, I got a voicemail at 6 a.m. from an officer I'd never heard of, saying the detective had been reassigned and someone else would follow up when resources allowed. Reassigned. Overnight. Right after he'd said he knew who was setting me up. Trevor listened to the voicemail twice. That's not normal procedure. Nothing about this is normal, I said. We were back at the kitchen table, the cabin quiet around us. Most of the guests had left early, sensing the celebration was over. Only Kelsey, Marcus, and Trevor remained. I pulled up my bank account on my laptop, something I should have done hours ago. My checking account looked fine. Savings untouched. But when I clicked into the linked account section, my blood went cold. There was an account I'd never opened. A joint account. With my mother's name attached. How is that possible? Kelsey stared at the screen. You didn't sign anything, right? Not that I remember. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Had I signed something? My parents were always asking me to sign forms. Tax documents, they'd say. Estate planning. I'd trusted them. That trust felt like poison now. Trevor zoomed in on the account details. Opened 14 months ago. Right after your grandmother died. The timeline was too perfect to be coincidence. I clicked through the transaction history. Mostly dormant, just a few small transfers. But then, 3 weeks ago, right after I'd booked this cabin, a withdrawal. $5,000. Where did that money go? Marcus asked. I traced it. The transfer landed in another account. One with Jake's name on it. My brother had accessed money from an account I didn't know I had, using my mother as the link. They're moving money through you, Trevor said quietly. Cleaning it. If anyone investigates Jake's finances, this account makes it look like you're involved. I'm being framed. Yes. And if they succeed in having you declared incompetent, they can claim you were always unstable. That you opened accounts you didn't understand. Made financial decisions you couldn't handle. My phone rang. My father. Everyone looked at me. I answered on speaker. Natalie. His voice was clipped, cold. We need to talk about your behavior. My behavior? Hosting unauthorized gatherings. Worrying your mother. That detective visit was highly inappropriate, and frankly, we're concerned about your judgment. The audacity took my breath away. You filed a false police report against me. We filed a legitimate concern about our daughter's mental state. The fact that you see it as an attack proves our point. Trevor started to speak, but I waved him off. I needed to hear this. What do you want, Dad? We want you to come home. Get the help you need. Jake's already spoken to a very good therapist who specializes in what? Daughters who don't obey? Silence. Then, you're being dramatic. This is exactly the kind of instability we're talking about. I'm not coming home. Then you leave us no choice. His voice dropped, became something sharper. We've scheduled an evaluation with a court-appointed psychiatrist. January 3rd. If you don't attend, we'll file for emergency guardianship on the grounds that you're a danger to yourself. My heart hammered. You can't do that. We can. We have documentation of your erratic financial behavior, your social isolation, your inability to maintain family relationships. A judge will see that you need help. Documentation you created. But he'd already hung up. I set the phone down carefully, afraid if I moved too fast I'd shatter. They've been planning this for over a year, I said. Everything. The identity theft, the joint account, the isolation. They needed me to look unstable so they could control my inheritance. Marcus pulled out his own laptop. Then we build a counter case. Bank records, timestamps, proof you were nowhere near those fraudulent charges. I can help with the legal strategy, Trevor added. But we need more. We need to understand what Jake's actually doing with the money. I thought about that photo. The folder with my name on it. The figure in the mirror. Someone else knows, I said. Someone's been watching all of us. Who? I didn't have an answer. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. If I went to that evaluation, if I let them pull me into their web, I'd never get out. So I started digging. I pulled up old documents my parents had asked me to sign. Tax forms, from last year. I'd never read them carefully, just trusted and signed where they pointed. Now I read every word. One document wasn't a tax form at all. It was a limited power of attorney, granting them authority over my medical decisions, in the event of incapacitation or mental health crisis. They've had legal control for months, Trevor breathed. If they'd wanted, they could have had you committed already. So why didn't they? Because they needed the money trail first. Needed evidence of your instability. Now they have both. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. You're starting to see it now, aren't you? But you're still missing the biggest piece. Check your grandmother's original will. The one before the revision. I looked at Marcus. Can you find that? The original will? If it was filed with the court, yes. He started searching public records while I sat there, feeling like a chess piece being moved by invisible hands. 20 minutes later, he found it. The original will, filed 3 years ago, left everything to me. Only me. The revised will, filed 2 months before her death, split everything between me and Jake. Grandmother changed her will right before she died, I said slowly. Why? Trevor studied the documents. Who witnessed the revision? Marcus highlighted the signatures. Richard Carter and Susan Carter. Your parents. The room went silent. They convinced her to change it, Kelsey whispered. Or forged it. And suddenly I understood. This wasn't just about stealing my inheritance. This was about covering up the fact that they'd already stolen it. My grandmother had left everything to me, but my parents and Jake had convinced her, or forced her, to change it. And now they needed me discredited so I couldn't challenge the will. We need proof, I said. Real proof. Not just theory. The unknown number texted again. Third drawer in your father's desk. Bank statements from the estate account. You'll see where the money really went. Who is this? I typed back. For the first time, they answered. Someone who lost everything to the same people. And who's been waiting a long time for you to finally fight back. The smart move would have been to stay at the cabin. Wait for Trevor to file legal motions. Let Marcus gather evidence properly. But I'd spent 28 years making the smart move, and it had gotten me nowhere. So at 9 p.m. on Christmas night, I made a different choice. I'm going to my parents' house, I announced. Kelsey's eyes went wide. That's insane. They literally tried to have you arrested. They're in Hartford for Jake's kids. House is empty. I grabbed my coat. And I need what's in that desk. Breaking and entering is a crime, Trevor pointed out, though his tone suggested he was considering it anyway. It's my father's desk. And I still have a key. Marcus stood. Then I'm coming with you. No. I'm a licensed investigator. If we find evidence, I can testify to the chain of custody. You can't. He was already putting on his jacket. Plus, if this mystery person is telling the truth, we're walking into something bigger than family drama. He was right. I hated that he was right. We left Kelsey and Trevor at the cabin with instructions to call the police if we didn't check in every 30 minutes. The drive to New Jersey took 2 hours through snow and darkness. My parents' house sat in a quiet suburb, looking peaceful and normal. Lights off. No cars in the driveway. I used my key, they'd never asked for it back, probably because they never imagined I'd use it. The house smelled like my childhood. Pine air freshener and my mother's perfume. For a second, I almost turned around. Then I remembered the joint account. The fake mental health crisis. The stolen will. I walked to my father's study. Marcus followed with a flashlight, keeping the beam low. "Third drawer," they said. I opened it. File folders, neatly organized. I pulled them out one by one until I found it. Bank statements for an estate account in my grandmother's name. Dated from the months following her death. Large withdrawals. 60,000 in March. 40,000 in May. 90,000 in August. All transferred to an account I didn't recognize. "That's over $200,000, Marcus whispered. Gone before the estate even settled. I photographed every page with my phone, hands shaking. Then I found the second folder. This one had my name on it, the same folder from the photo. Inside were printed emails. Between my father and Jake. "We need to move faster." Natalie's starting to ask questions about the estate timeline. "I'll handle it. Already planted the credit card issue. Give it a few months, then we can trigger the evaluation." "What if she fights it?" "She won't. She never does." I felt sick reading my own brother's words. The casual cruelty. The assumption that I'd just roll over and accept whatever they decided. Marcus was photographing everything, his jaw tight. Then I saw the third folder. This one wasn't labeled. Inside were documents I didn't understand at first. Corporate filings. Business licenses. All for companies I'd never heard of. Until I saw the signatures. Jake's name. Over and over. Creating shell companies, moving money between them. "He's been embezzling for years," Marcus breathed. "Not just from the estate. From your family's actual business." "How much?" He added up figures quickly. $500,000. Maybe more. My parents' business, the one my father built over 30 years, was being gutted by their golden child. "Do they know?" I asked. "I don't think so. These accounts are buried. He's been covering tracks, moving money offshore." Marcus looked at me. "Your inheritance wasn't just convenient. It was necessary." He needed it to cover what he'd already stolen. A floorboard creaked upstairs. We froze. The house was supposed to be empty. Marcus killed the flashlight. We stood in darkness, listening. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Coming down the stairs. I grabbed Marcus's arm, pulling him toward the back door. But before we could move, the study light flicked on. Jake stood in the doorway. He looked different than I remembered. Thinner. Tired. His eyes had a wild edge that sent fear crawling up my spine. "Hello, Natalie." His voice was eerily calm. "I wondered when you'd finally figure it out." "Jake. Save it." He stepped into the room, and I saw what he was holding. My father's gun. The one he kept in the bedroom safe. "You couldn't just stay quiet, could you? Couldn't just accept your place and let the rest of us handle things?" Marcus shifted slightly, putting himself between me and Jake. "Put the gun down." "Why?" "So she can ruin everything? I've worked too hard, sacrificed too much." Jake's hand trembled. "Do you know what it's like being the perfect son? The one who has to succeed because failure isn't an option." "So you stole from our family," I said, finding my voice. "From grandmother. From dad's business. From me. I borrowed. I was going to pay it back once the investments hit." "What investments?" His laugh was bitter. "Ones that didn't pan out. But that's not the point. The point is I needed time, and you were going to ruin it by asking questions about the estate. So you framed me. Made me look unstable. I made you disappear quietly. Cleanly. Mom and Dad would have had control. I would have managed the money for everyone's benefit, and you would have gotten help you clearly need. I don't need help. I needed a family that didn't treat me like garbage. Something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe. But it vanished fast. None of this matters now. You've seen too much. He raised the gun slightly. Marcus's voice stayed steady. Shooting your sister won't solve your problems. You're already finished. Those documents prove everything. Maybe. But if Natalie has an accident, if she spirals and does something tragic on Christmas night after a mental breakdown. He shrugged. Sad, but predictable. Given her history. My phone buzzed in my pocket. The 30-minute check-in. If I didn't answer, Kelsey would call the police. Jake heard it too. Give me the phone. No. Natalie. Shoot me or don't, Jake. But I'm done being afraid of you. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Jake's expression shifted. The gun lowered slightly. You really think you've won, don't you? His smile was terrible. You have no idea what's actually happening. Before I could ask what he meant, the front door crashed open. Police swarmed in, shouting commands. Jake dropped the gun, hands up. Officers surrounded him, dragged him down. Detective Harris appeared in the doorway, very much not reassigned. Natalie Brooks? You okay? I nodded, unable to speak. We've been listening the whole time. He held up a phone, the unknown number. Your friend Trevor gave us enough for a warrant. And your confession, Mr. Carter, just made our job much easier. Jake was screaming as they cuffed him. You don't understand. They made me. I had no choice. Who made you? I called after him. But he was already being dragged out, still shouting incoherently about debts and threats and people I'd never heard of. Detective Harris looked at me seriously. We need you to come in and make a full statement. Both of you. What about my parents? Being picked up now. Conspiracy to commit fraud, among other charges. I should have felt relief. Victory. Instead, I felt empty. My entire family was being arrested on Christmas night. Because they'd tried to destroy me to cover their own crimes. Marcus's hand found mine. You did the right thing. Had I? Or had I just burned everything down and called it justice? My phone buzzed. The unknown number one last time. It's not over. Jake was telling the truth about one thing. He wasn't working alone. And the person who's really behind this? You're going to wish you'd never found out. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and fluorescent lighting. Marcus and I sat in separate rooms for hours, giving statements, answering the same questions over and over until my voice went hoarse. Detective Harris seemed satisfied. Jake's confession, rambling and panicked as it was, combined with the documents we'd found gave them enough to hold him. My parents were in custody too, brought in from Hartford looking shocked and indignant. But I couldn't stop thinking about that final text. He wasn't working alone. At 3 a.m, they finally let us leave. Trevor picked us up, Kelsey asleep in the passenger seat. Your parents made bail, Trevor said as we drove. Jake didn't. They're holding him on the weapons charge. What did my parents say? That Jake acted alone. That they had no knowledge of the embezzlement or the identity theft. They're claiming he manipulated them, used their signatures without permission. Of course they were. Even now, they couldn't admit the truth. Will it work? Trevor's hands tightened on the wheel. Maybe. Without solid proof they knew what Jake was doing, a prosecutor might have trouble making charges stick. The power of attorney you signed could be explained as legitimate estate planning. The joint account could be a misunderstanding. So they get away with it. I didn't say that. I said it'll be harder. We keep digging. We got back to the cabin as dawn broke. I should have been exhausted, but adrenaline kept me wired. I made coffee while everyone else collapsed. Then I opened my laptop and started reading everything Marcus had compiled on Jake's financial activities. The shell companies. The offshore transfers. The pattern of theft going back 6 years. But one thing kept nagging at me. Jake was sloppy. His embezzlement was obvious once you knew where to look. The kind of thing that should have been caught by accountants or auditors years ago. Unless someone had been helping him hide it. I pulled up my father's business records, public filings Marcus had obtained. Started tracing connections between the shell companies and the legitimate business. There. A consulting firm that billed my father's company monthly. $50,000 a month for financial advisory services. The consulting firm was registered in Delaware. Owner listed as RS Management LLC. Another shell company. I traced it further. And found my mother's maiden name buried in the incorporation documents. Rachel Stephanie Morrison. RS. They knew, I whispered. The whole time. Marcus appeared beside me, coffee in hand. What did you find? I showed him. The consulting company. The monthly payments. The connection to my mother. They weren't victims of Jake's scheme. They were partners. That changes everything, Trevor said, suddenly awake. If we can prove they set up that company specifically to funnel stolen money. My phone rang. Unknown number again. I answered on speaker this time, done with secrets. Natalie. The voice was female, middle-aged, vaguely familiar. You're getting close. But you're still looking at the wrong crime. Who is this? Someone who tried to warn your grandmother before she died. Someone who worked in her lawyer's office and saw what your parents were doing. My chest tightened. The will. They forced her to change it. Worse than that. They convinced her she had dementia. Had a doctor, a friend of your father's, evaluate her and declare her mentally incompetent. Then they changed the will themselves, forged her signature on the revision. The room spun. My grandmother was fine. She didn't have dementia. I know. I saw her every week for 2 years. Sharp as ever. But your parents needed control of her estate immediately, and they needed you to never question it. Why didn't you report this? Silence. Then, I tried. I went to the police. But your father has friends in law enforcement, connections you don't know about. My report disappeared. I was fired from the firm. And when I kept pushing, her voice cracked. They came after my daughter. Made it look like she was dealing substances at her high school. She lost her scholarship. Her future. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Fight back. That's why I've been feeding you information. Because someone needs to stop them, and it can't be me anymore. I have too much to lose. What's your name? It doesn't matter. What matters is this: your parents are planning something tonight. They know you have the documents. They're desperate. What are they planning? I don't know exactly. But they left Hartford 2 hours ago. And they're not heading back to New Jersey. The line went dead. I looked at Marcus. They're coming here. To the cabin? Where else? They know I have proof. They need it back. Trevor was already moving. We need to leave. Now. But I was tired of running. Tired of being afraid. No. Let them come. Natalie. They want a confrontation. Fine. But this time, we're ready. I turned to Marcus. You said you've been recording everything, right? For your investigation? Yes. Then we set a trap. We get them on record admitting what they did. All of it. Kelsey looked uncertain. That's risky. Everything about this is risky. But I'm done letting them control the narrative. We spent the next hour preparing. Marcus set up recording equipment, small cameras hidden in the cabin's main room, audio devices disguised as decorations still scattered around from Christmas. Trevor coached me on what to say, how to get them talking without making it obvious. And we waited. They arrived at noon. Both of them, looking smaller somehow. Older. My mother's perfect hair was disheveled. My father's usual confidence was gone. I opened the door before they could knock. Natalie. My mother's voice was strained. We need to talk. Then talk. They came inside, their eyes scanning the cabin, looking for something. The documents, probably. My father spoke first. This has gotten out of hand. Your brother made mistakes, yes. But you're tearing this family apart. I'm tearing it apart? You always were dramatic, my mother said. Even as a child. Making problems where there weren't any. The casual cruelty was almost impressive. Jake tried to shoot me last night. Does that count as a problem? My father flinched. He was scared. Not thinking clearly. You have to understand the pressure he's been under. The pressure of stealing $500,000? That's not, he stopped, realized he'd almost admitted something. I pressed forward. Just tell me the truth. For once in your lives, tell me the truth. Did you help Jake steal from grandmother's estate? My mother laughed. Actually laughed. Your grandmother was a bitter old woman who would have wasted that money on charities and causes that didn't matter. We made sure it stayed in the family where it belonged. So you admit it. Her eyes narrowed. Admit what? That we made difficult decisions to protect our family's legacy. That we prioritized Jake because he actually contributed something. What about me? What about you, Natalie? My father's voice turned cold. You were always the spare. The backup plan. We gave you a good life, a good education. But you never had Jake's drive, his intelligence. His willingness to commit crimes. His understanding of how the world really works. My mother stepped closer. People like you don't succeed because you're too busy whining about fairness. Life isn't fair. Power goes to people who take it. Is that what you taught grandmother before you forged her will? The room went silent. My father's face drained of color. Who told you that? Does it matter? I know you convinced her she had dementia. I know you faked medical evaluations. I know you forged her signature and stole everything she meant to leave to me. My mother's composure finally cracked. She was leaving it all to you. After everything we did for her, everything we sacrificed, she was going to give it all to her ungrateful granddaughter who barely visited. Because you told me she didn't want to see me. You said I upset her. You did upset her. With your constant neediness, your victim mentality. She loved me. My voice broke. And you took that away. You took her away. And then you tried to take everything else. My father moved toward the door. We're done here. You have no proof of anything. Just conspiracy theories from a daughter who's clearly unstable. I have the documents. The bank records. The shell company in Mom's name. He froze. And I have recordings of everything you just said. My mother's eyes went wide, scanning the room. Looking for cameras she'd never find. You're bluffing, my father said, but his voice shook. Detective Harris stepped out from the bedroom where he'd been waiting. She's not. Two more officers appeared. One from the kitchen. One from outside. My parents stood there, trapped, finally understanding they'd lost. My mother turned to me, and for the first time, I saw real hatred in her eyes. You'll regret this. Family is everything, and you just destroyed yours. No, I said quietly. You destroyed it years ago. I'm just finally admitting it's gone. They were handcuffed and led away, my mother still hurling insults, my father silent and defeated. When the door closed, I collapsed onto the couch. Marcus sat beside me. You did it. Had I? It didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. My entire family was in custody. My brother facing serious charges. My parents exposed as frauds and thieves. And I was alone. Except I wasn't. Kelsey wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. Trevor started making calls to finalize legal protections. Marcus just stayed close, steady. What happens now? I asked. Now, Detective Harris said, we build the case. And you get your life back. But as he said it, my phone buzzed one final time. The unknown number. You did well. But there's one more thing you need to know about your grandmother's death. It wasn't natural. And your parents know it. The message hung in the air like poison. It wasn't natural. Detective Harris saw my face. What is it? I showed him the text. His expression hardened. We need to talk to this person. Now. I called the number. It rang once, then a woman's voice answered. I was wondering when you'd finally call. You said my grandmother's death wasn't natural. What does that mean? Detective Harris gestured for me to put it on speaker. The woman, I still didn't know her name, took a shaky breath. Your grandmother was healthy. Active. Her doctor confirmed it 6 months before she died. She had a heart attack. That's what they told me. She did. But heart attacks can be induced. Especially in someone taking medication. My blood went cold. What medication? Blood pressure pills. Standard for someone her age. But the week before she died, her prescription was refilled. I saw the paperwork when I was organizing her estate files. And? The dosage was wrong. Triple what it should have been. I flagged it, asked the lawyer to investigate. He dismissed it as a pharmacy error. Detective Harris leaned forward. Did you keep copies of those documents? Yes. I knew something was wrong, so I documented everything. I can send them to you. Do it. Now. Within minutes, scanned documents hit Harris's email. Prescription records. Pharmacy logs. A timeline showing the medication change occurred 3 days after my parents visited my grandmother. This doesn't prove murder, Trevor said carefully. It's suspicious, but not definitive. No, Harris agreed. But it's enough to exhume the body and run a toxicology screen. I felt nauseous. You think they killed her? I think they were desperate. Your grandmother was about to realize what they'd done to her will. She was sharp enough to notice discrepancies eventually. He paused. And if she changed the will back, or went public with accusations? They needed her gone, Marcus finished. The woman on the phone spoke again. There's more. Your grandmother tried to call you the day before she died. Did you know that? No. I never got a call. Because your mother intercepted it. I heard her on the phone with your grandmother, saying you were too busy to talk, that you'd call back later. You never got the message. Tears burned my eyes. My grandmother had tried to reach me. Had maybe tried to warn me. And my mother had blocked it. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Why wait so long? Because I was scared. Because they threatened my daughter. And because. Her voice broke. Because I was a coward. I let them get away with it. But watching you fight back, seeing you refuse to be silenced, it reminded me that some things are worth the risk. What's your name? Patricia Monroe. I worked as your grandmother's estate paralegal for 3 years. I loved her like family. Thank you, Patricia. For everything. Don't thank me yet. They're going to fight this with everything they have. Are you ready for that? I looked around the cabin. At the people who'd stood by me. Who'd believed me when my own family didn't. Yes. I'm ready. Harris stood. I need to brief my captain. This is now a potential homicide investigation. He looked at me seriously. Your parents will likely be denied bail pending further investigation. Your brother too. And Natalie? This is going to get worse before it gets better. Media attention, family scrutiny, people taking sides. I know. After he left, the cabin felt too quiet. Kelsey broke the silence. Your parents murdered your grandmother. Saying it out loud made it real. Made it horrible. We don't know that for sure, I said weakly. But you believe it. I did. Because it fit. Because it explained the rushed will change, the sudden heart attack, my mother's strange insistence that I not attend the funeral planning. They'd killed her. Forged her will. Stolen her money. And then tried to destroy me to cover it all up. My phone rang. My aunt, my father's sister. I hadn't spoken to her in years. Natalie? I just heard about Richard and Susan's arrest. Please tell me this is a misunderstanding. It's not. But they're saying, the news is reporting, she struggled for words. Did they really try to have you declared incompetent? Yes. And they stole from grandmother's estate. And they might have killed her. Silence. Then, I always wondered about her death. It seemed too sudden. But I never imagined. Nobody did. That's how they got away with it for so long. What do you need? How can I help? The offer surprised me. You believe me? I've known your parents my whole life, Natalie. I love my brother. But I'm not blind to who he is. The way they treated you at family gatherings. She sighed. I should have said something years ago. I'm saying it now. Whatever you need, I'm here. Something loosened in my chest. Not everyone was against me. Thank you. Over the next hours, more calls came. Cousins I barely knew. Family friends. Some offering support. Others demanding explanations. My uncle, my mother's brother, called me a liar and hung up. Jake's wife called sobbing, begging me to drop the charges, insisting Jake was a good man who made mistakes. I listened to all of them. Answered when I could. Let the rest go to voicemail. By evening, the story had hit local news. Prominent Connecticut family arrested in elaborate fraud scheme. My parents' faces on screen. Jake's mugshot. And buried in the story, potential homicide investigation pending. Trevor muted the TV. You should stay off social media for a while. Too late. I'd already looked. Half the comments supported me. Called my parents monsters. Praised my courage. The other half called me ungrateful. Said I was tearing apart a good family over money. Accused me of lying for attention. People are going to believe what they want, Marcus said gently. You can't control that. I know. But it hurt anyway. Hurt to see people defend my parents without knowing the truth. Hurt to watch strangers debate my life like it was entertainment. My phone buzzed. A text from Jake's wife. I found something in his office. Documents I don't understand. But I think you should see them. What kind of documents? Communications with someone. Planning everything. Your brother wasn't the mastermind, Natalie. Someone else was pulling the strings. And I think they're going to try to blame Jake for all of it. My stomach dropped. Who? I don't know. The emails are vague. But there's a meeting scheduled. Tomorrow night. Between your parents and someone called the consultant. I have the address. Detective Harris needed to know about this. But part of me wanted to go to that meeting myself. To finally see who'd been orchestrating this nightmare. Send me everything you have, I typed back. The documents came through. Encrypted emails. Coded language. References to the asset, me, and the obstacle, my grandmother, and the contingency plan, Jake taking the fall. Someone had planned this from the beginning. Someone who stayed hidden while my family destroyed itself. And tomorrow night, I'd find out who. Marcus read over my shoulder. You're not seriously thinking of going to this meeting. I have to know. Let the police handle it. The police don't understand. This is personal. Which is exactly why you shouldn't go. But I was already making the decision. Already planning. Trevor saw it too. If you're going, you're not going alone. And we're doing this smart, wired up, backup ready, exit strategy planned. I can work with that. Kelsey just shook her head. You're all insane. But I'm coming too. We spent the night preparing. Harris agreed reluctantly, on the condition that officers would be nearby and I'd wear a wire. The meeting was set for an abandoned office building in Newark. The kind of place nobody went after dark. The kind of place where bad things happened. But I'd come too far to stop now. Tomorrow night, I'd finally learn the truth. And whatever happened after that, I'd face it knowing I hadn't run away. The building smelled like mold and forgotten dreams. We arrived early, me, Marcus, Trevor, and 6 officers positioned throughout the structure. The wire hidden under my coat felt heavy. Obvious. But Harris assured me it was undetectable. You don't have to do this, Marcus said for the 10th time. Yes, I do. At 8 p.m., headlights cut through the darkness. My parents' car. They walked into the building together, looking around nervously. My mother spotted me first. Natalie. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing. My father's face hardened. You need to leave. This doesn't concern you. Everything about this concerns me. Before they could respond, another car pulled up. A town car, expensive and dark. A woman stepped out. 50s, professionally dressed, carrying a briefcase like she was heading to a board meeting instead of an abandoned building. She walked past my parents without acknowledging them and stopped directly in front of me. Natalie Brooks. Finally. Who are you? Catherine Walsh. Your grandmother's financial advisor for 20 years. She smiled, and it was cold. And the person who's been managing this situation since it started spiraling out of control. My parents looked as confused as I felt. Catherine? My mother's voice wavered. What is she talking about? Oh, Susan. You really thought you were clever, didn't you? Manipulating your mother-in-law, stealing her money? Catherine laughed. You were useful idiots. Nothing more. My father stepped forward. We had an agreement. You helped us with the will, the companies. I helped you hang yourselves. Every document you signed, every transfer you made, I ensured it was traceable. Prosecutable. Why? I asked. Catherine turned to me. Because your grandmother was my friend. My actual friend. And when I realized what your parents were planning, I tried to warn her. Her expression darkened. But she didn't believe me. Thought I was overreacting. So I did the next best thing. I let your parents proceed, while documenting everything. You wanted them caught. I wanted them destroyed. The same way they destroyed her. She opened her briefcase, pulled out a file. Your grandmother didn't die of a heart attack, Natalie. She died of deliberate overdose. I have the pharmacy records proving your mother picked up the altered prescription. My mother went pale. That's a lie. It's not. And the exhumation Detective Harris ordered will prove it. Catherine handed me the file. Everything you need. Proof of murder. Proof of fraud. Proof that your parents have been systematically destroying their own family for money they've already spent. My father lunged at her, but officers appeared, restraining him. You set us up, he snarled. You set yourselves up. I just made sure there would be consequences. Catherine looked at me. Your grandmother changed her will back the day before she died. Left everything to you, just like she originally intended. The revised will your parents used? Completely invalid. I have the real one, properly witnessed and filed. Everything stopped. I inherit everything? Yes. And your parents inherit prison sentences. She glanced at them with disgust. Detective Harris has enough now to charge them both with first-degree murder. My parents were screaming as officers dragged them away. Threats. Denials. Blame. I just stood there, holding a file that proved my grandmother had loved me after all. Catherine touched my shoulder gently. She talked about you constantly. How proud she was. How worried she was that your parents were isolating you. Her voice softened. She tried to protect you. I'm just sorry I couldn't save her too. Thank you for trying. Make her proud, Natalie. Live the life she wanted you to have. 3 months later, I stood in my own house, small, but mine, and hosted a gathering. Not Christmas. Just a regular Saturday. Kelsey brought wine. Marcus brought takeout. Trevor brought his wife and kids. Patricia Monroe came, nervous but smiling. My aunt showed up with photo albums of my grandmother I'd never seen. We laughed. Shared stories. Built something new from the ruins of what came before. My parents were awaiting trial. Jake had taken a plea deal. The inheritance was secured, and I'd used part of it to start a foundation in my grandmother's name, helping people escape financial abuse by family members. Patricia now ran it with me. My phone sat on the counter, silent. No more unknown numbers. No more threats. Just messages from people who chose to be in my life. Marcus found me on the porch later, watching snow fall. You okay? I think so. For the first time in years, I actually think so. He smiled. Your grandmother would be proud. I hope so. Inside, laughter echoed. Real laughter, from people who genuinely cared. This was what Christmas, what life, was supposed to feel like. Not perfect. Not Instagram-worthy. Just real. I'd learned that family isn't defined by blood or obligation. It's defined by who shows up when everything falls apart. Who stands beside you when it's easier to walk away. And I'd learned that justice doesn't always feel satisfying. Sometimes it just feels necessary. My parents would face consequences. My grandmother would never come back. Years of hurt couldn't be erased. But I was free. Free to build something better. Free to choose my own people. Free to stop waiting for love from those who'd never give it. The snow kept falling, covering everything in quiet white. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was disappearing into it. I felt like I was finally, completely visible.